Hello, today we talk about something very deep. Do you know there are things we cannot see, but they are real? Some people can feel them, some people can understand hidden truth. But how? Today we explore hidden knowledge, the secret of Mola Ali, peace be upon him, and the path of the mystics. This is not just a story, this is a journey. So stay with me and listen till the end.
Welcome back to the deep dive. To you, the learner, listening right now, imagine spending your entire life mastering a subject. Like you memorize every textbook, you pass every single exam, and you build this whole identity around being, the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And then suddenly a master looks at you and says, you haven't actually learned a single real thing.
Ouch. Yeah, that is a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. So today on the deep dive, we're unpacking this super fascinating source video. It's from the channel Dastan Urdu, and it's titled Ilm-e-Kaib, Mola Ali, AS, or Kalandarana Azrar.
Which is such a rich, complex text.
Yeah, and our mission today is to really figure out why the ultimate knowledge in this specific tradition of Islamic spiritual philosophy actually requires you to, well, basically abandon your intellect entirely.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a complete paradigm shift for anyone who is used to, like, the Western academic model of learning, where everything is measurable.
Oh, exactly. If it's not on a spreadsheet, it doesn't exist.
Right. But whether you're already deeply invested in different spiritual frameworks or, you're just someone looking for a totally new perspective on what it actually means to know something, this material fundamentally challenges how we perceive reality, like daily reality.
So where does it start? Because I know it sets up this big dichotomy right away.
It does. It establishes this challenge right out of the gate by dividing human life into two parallel experiences. It essentially posits that you, me, the listener, everyone, we exist constantly between two worlds.
The first one is, well, it's pretty easy to grasp because we literally live in it.
Exactly.
The text calls it Ilm-e-Zahir, which translates roughly to apparent or outward knowledge.
Right, the stuff you can see and touch.
Yeah, the domain of what the eye sees. So shapes, colors, forms, physical dimensions, like the literal words on a page. It's the highly practical, completely quantifiable reality that we navigate every single day.
But, and here's the kicker, the text argues that stopping there is like judging an entire ocean by just looking at the ripples on the surface.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Beneath that surface is the second world, the one the heart feels. This is Ilmi Batin, the hidden knowledge.
Ilmi Batin.
Right. And according to the source, while that outward knowledge, Ilmi Zahir, only shows us the external facade of objects and events, Ilmi Batin is what pulls back the curtain. It reveals the underlying reality. Basically, the spiritual machinery operating behind the scenes.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my immediate question when reading this was, well, how do you actually access that?
Yeah, that's the natural next question.
Because if this hidden knowledge, this Ilmi Batin, isn't in textbooks, and you can't just, swipe your credit card for an online masterclass to get it, what is the actual mechanism for acquiring it?
So the source uses this very deliberate, really beautiful metaphor to explain the mechanism. It says that this hidden knowledge is a treasure that grows on the soil of the heart.
The soil of the heart.
Yes. People of spiritual insight in this tradition call this specific type of understanding ilmi laduni. That's knowledge that descends directly into the human heart.
It descends.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't climb up to get it.
Exactly. It comes through light and insight rather than study. And the way you process it is entirely different from conventional learning. The text really emphasizes that this knowledge is felt more through taste, or like a profound spiritual state, than it is understood through logical debate.
Which is wild to think about.
I mean, you literally cannot argue your way into Ilmi Laduni.
So it's fundamentally experiential. It sounds a lot like looking at a website.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, Ilmi Zahir, that apparent knowledge, is just looking at the flashy front-end interface.
Right.
You see the images, you read the text, you click the buttons, and you think, okay, that is all there is to this website.
Right, the user experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But accessing this hidden knowledge, which the text calls cache, right?
Yes, cache.
So getting to cache is like suddenly being able to read the actual matrix of the source code. Like the HTML and JavaScript that makes the whole thing run behind the scenes.
That analogy captures the essence perfectly, because cache literally translates to the lifting of the veil.
Lifting the veil.
Right. The source describes it as that exact moment when the barriers separating the outward and inward realities just dissolve. When that veil lifts, a person gets to peek into the much deeper layers of existence. It can happen in dreams, through deep feelings, or even when you're completely awake.
But I'm guessing it doesn't just happen to anyone walking down the street.
No, absolutely not. The text is very clear that this doesn't just happen randomly, that soil of the heart we mentioned. It has to be violently cultivated.
Violently?
Yeah, in a spiritual sense. It requires completely stripping away your arrogance. You have to be constantly serving others, enduring trials without a single complaint, and you need an immense, almost unimaginable amount of patience.
Okay, see, that raises a massive red flag for me.
Really?
How come?
Well, if the ego is that deceptive and, our human brains are constantly tricking us anyway, how do we know we aren't just making it all up?
The delusion factor. Right. If we were talking about profound knowledge that's based on intense personal feelings, sudden visions, and hidden revelations, human beings are incredibly prone to hallucination. We love to convince ourselves that we're the chosen ones, that we're special.
Oh, absolutely. And what's brilliant is that the source anticipates that exact skepticism. It addresses it head on with a really stern warning.
Okay, good.
It explicitly says that not every intense emotion, not every sudden profound thought, and certainly not every vision of light is true cash.
Really? So what is it then?
A lot of the time, these overwhelming feelings are very often just the voice of the ego. In this tradition, the ego is called the nafs, and the nafs is highly, highly deceptive.
So it tricks you.
Exactly. It can literally mimic spiritual elevation just to feed a person's vanity. It traps them in pure, unadulterated imagination, making them think they're enlightened when they're actually just inflating their own ego.
Wow. So how do you separate the signal from the noise? Like if someone thinks they just had the veil of the universe lifted for them, how do they validate that they aren't just, suffering from main character syndrome?
That's where the litmus test comes in. And it is a highly rigorous, uncompromising test.
Okay.
True people of the heart, the ones who actually know what they're doing, they weigh every single spiritual experience on the scale of Sharia.
Sharia, meaning the Islamic law and principles.
Yes. The body of Islamic law and core religious principles. And the rule is absolute. If a spiritual state or a vision contradicts the Quran and the Sunnah, it is immediately rejected as false.
Instantly.
Instantly. No matter how amazing or profound or beautiful it felt to the person experiencing it, if it doesn't align with Sharia, it's fake.
Okay, so think of Sharia like the laws of physics and like the instrument panel in aviation.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, because you might feel like you're having this profound spiritual flight. But if your flight violates the basic law of gravity, in this case, the foundational religious texts, then your instrument panel is basically screaming at you that you aren't actually flying. You're just in a tailspin of your own imagination.
That is exactly it. It's a psychological safety net built right into the framework. It requires rigorous, constant self-policing so seekers don't fall victim to their own delusions.
Which is so necessary.
It really is. In fact, the text lays out 3 absolute prerequisites that must be met before the doors of this hidden knowledge can even begin to open.
Let's hear them.
First, there has to be a literal and spiritual cleanliness of the heart.
Okay, pretty foundational.
Second, sincerity and pure intentions, meaning, you aren't seeking this knowledge for fame or leverage or have power over people.
No showing off.
Right. And third, that strong, unshakable foundation in Sharia and principles we just talked about. Without that grounding wire, you aren't experiencing a spiritual awakening. You are just entirely lost in the wilderness of your own mind.
Man, that drastically changes the tone of this whole pursuit.
Yeah.
It is not some free-for-all mystical playground where you can just do whatever feels good.
No.
It is a highly disciplined, actually dangerous path, which naturally begs the question, if the path is this perilous, who actually mapped it out? Who is the exemplar that proves walking this path is even possible?
So to answer that, the text leans on a very famous tradition from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He is quoted as saying, "I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its door."
Okay, referring to Mullah Ali.
Yes.
Now, I have to push back here for a second because in a lot of historical contexts, titles like the Door of Knowledge are just, they're honorifics.
Right, like a nice nickname.
Yeah. It's like a mayor giving a visiting dignitary the key to the city. It's entirely ceremonial. It doesn't unlock anything. Is the source arguing something more literal here?
Very literal. The text is exceptionally clear that this is not a ceremonial title. It's not a badge of honor awarded for good behavior.
Hmm.
In this spiritual framework, Mola Ali represents a functional, operational gateway.
An actual door.
Yes. To access the hidden reality, a seeker's heart has to be fundamentally oriented toward his example. His life, his decisions, his spiritual posture, they act as the literal blueprint for navigating the unseen.
Okay, but what does that blueprint actually look like in practice? Is it about sitting in a cave and memorizing secret passwords to the universe?
Far from it. The source reiterates that his knowledge is not about collecting data points. It is described as a vast treasure of wisdom and insight that manifests as a state of being.
A state of being, not a trivia bank.
Exactly. Following his path brings a deep internal peace, a crushing humility, and this very specific ability to see through deception.
So you can't be tricked.
Right. True knowledge here is called the garment of spiritual insight. And if you have actually achieved it, if you're really wearing that garment, it requires absolutely no flashy claims. The quietness, the utter peace of the person's state is the proof of their authenticity.
Wow. The peace of humility. If the ultimate proof of this knowledge is quietness, I really want to talk about the people who actually embody that.
The travelers.
Right, because the source outlines an entire hierarchy of spiritual travelers who have walked through this doorway, and the mechanics of how they operate in the world are just fascinating.
They really are. The text refers to those who successfully walk this path as part of a caravan known as the Aliyah, which translates to the Friends of God.
The Ualiya.
Right. And their defining characteristic isn't just that they perform, physical acts of worship. Their gaze has actively lifted beyond those physical veils of the Ilm Zahir. They have reached a state where they actually perceive God's reality functioning behind everything in the physical world.
And the text breaks this caravan down into distinct ranks, right? They list them as Wali, Qutba, Abdal, and finally the Calendar. But it doesn't just, list them like a corporate org chart. It implies this massive cosmic burden associated with these titles.
Absolutely. The hierarchy represents different levels of spiritual insight, but also immense responsibility. A wali acts as a friend or protector of the faith.
Okay.
Then you have a qutba, which translates to axis or pivot. In broader spiritual traditions, they're described as a figure who acts as a spiritual anchor for an entire region or even an era. They carry this huge, unseen burden for the people around them.
That sounds exhausting, honestly.
It's a heavyweight. And then the Abdal are these substitutes, a hidden group of individuals who quietly replace one another to maintain the spiritual balance of the world.
But then the text isolates the highest rank, the Calendar. And the description here is just staggering. It says a Calendar is someone completely and utterly freed from all worldly bonds.
Completely.
Zero desire for fame. Zero desire for wealth. Zero desire for social standing. Their entire existence, their only axis of gravity, is the love and knowledge of Allah.
It's the ultimate detachment.
Well, wait, hold on. A Calendar has zero desire for wealth or social standing. From a modern practical standpoint, how does someone like that even survive?
That's a very fair question.
Like, if they don't care about paying the mortgage or holding a job or participating in the economy, doesn't that just make them a burden on society? How does the text reconcile that detachment with actual living?
So, transcending worldly attachments doesn't mean they literally stop existing in the physical world or that they become a burden on others.
Okay.
It means they operate entirely without friction or ego. They might have a job, they might have a family, they might pay a mortgage, but their internal state is completely untethered from the outcomes.
Ah, I see.
Right. If they lose everything tomorrow, their internal peace doesn't waver for a single second because their security wasn't tied to the ilmi zahir, the outward material reality in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the text makes a crucial distinction here too. The state of the Kalandar is not a rebellion against society. They aren't anarchists. It is actually the highest possible form of submission and peace.
Here is where it gets really, really interesting for you, the listener, thinking about the world we live in today. Because we exist in an attention economy, right?
100%.
Every single person broadcasts their tiniest achievements. We post our breakfasts, our workouts, our elaborate, spiritual morning routines. We literally have $1 billion industry of spiritual influencers filming themselves meditating for views.
Yeah, the irony of that is thick.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And yet, according to this centuries-old tradition, The ultimate spiritual flex is absolute secrecy. Crucially, these figures keep their states a secret.
Yes.
The knowledge they receive is a bestowed light. It is not a personal superpower to be paraded around on social media.
It is a profound inversion of modern values. The more you truly know, the quieter you become. You do not advertise your spiritual rank, period.
But that raises a dangerous theological question, which is actually the final major boundary the source establishes.
It is a very important boundary.
Right, because if these spiritual masters, these calendars, have such profound insight and they've lifted the veils of reality, do they know everything?
Right. Does this hidden knowledge make them omniscient?
Exactly, because that sounds like a very, very slippery slope toward treating a human being like a god.
It does. And the source provides a critical, non-negotiable clarification to prevent exactly that. The absolute total knowledge of the unseen, which is called ilm igaib, belongs only to Allah.
Okay, so there's a limit.
There is a hard, impenetrable ceiling on human capability.
So no matter how high a calendar rises in rank, they are still, at the end of the day, fundamentally human.
Completely human. Any spiritual insight, no matter how profound or life-changing it is just a granted light. It's a glimpse.
Just a glimpse.
Right. It is never absolute, and it is never an independent power. They are basically looking through a keyhole. They do not own the house.
Oh, I love that analogy. Looking through a keyhole.
Thanks. And the source outlines two extremes that people tend to fall into when dealing with this concept. On one side, people elevate these saints and mystics so much that they view them as completely independent, all-knowing powers.
Which completely shatters the foundational monotheism of the tradition.
Exactly. It breaks the core rule.
But on the other extreme, you have people who see that danger, they panic, and they react by denying spiritual realities entirely. Like, they completely shut the door on hidden knowledge and mystical experiences because they are terrified of the theological messiness.
Right, they just throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the text argues that the truth lies strictly in a balanced middle path. You must acknowledge that the doors of spiritual insight exist and can absolutely be opened, while simultaneously maintaining the strict boundary that ultimate unseen knowledge belongs to God alone.
And when that balance is lost.
When it's lost, it creates the perfect ecosystem for fake spiritual guides.
Right. The source refers to them as so-called peers and amils, essentially fake gurus who exploit people's faith, their desperation, and their lack of theological balance.
Yes, the spiritual con artists.
Because people are desperate for meaning,
Yeah.
right? They want a shortcut to the hidden world, and then someone steps up claiming to have the VIP pass. So how does the source suggest we navigate that? How do we spot the fakes?
It offers a brilliantly simple and devastatingly effective test.
Let's hear it.
The ultimate test of a true guide versus a fake guide comes down to direction. A fake guide calls people to themselves.
Themselves.
Yes, they want your loyalty, your money, your constant dependence on their specific powers or their presence.
Right.
But a true guide points people entirely toward Allah.
Man, if you are listening to this right now, think about how broadly this applies to your own life, not just in religion. Think about the self-help gurus you follow online, or even the corporate leaders at your job.
Oh, that's a great connection.
Are they building an ecosystem that makes you completely reliant on them? Are they trying to be the ultimate bottleneck for all success and wisdom in your life? If so, this spiritual framework would classify them as a fraud.
Straight up fraud.
Because true leaders are just signposts. Their entire purpose is to point you toward a greater truth, give you the tools to walk the path yourself, and then crucially get out of the way.
And that brings us perfectly to the ultimate thesis of this entire spiritual framework we've been unpacking. We've talked about hidden knowledge, the lifting of veils, Mullah Ali as the operational doorway, and the secret ranks of the calendars.
It's been a lot.
It has. But the text is very clear about the actual purpose of all of this. The goal isn't to become superior to other people. It's not about unlocking cool cosmic secrets so you can feel smarter than everyone else in the room.
The goal is entirely about internal transformation.
Exactly.
If gaining this knowledge doesn't bring you humility, deep peace, and a closer, more sincere servitude to God, then the traveler hasn't actually gone anywhere.
They haven't even started.
Right. If the knowledge inflates your ego instead of dissolving it, you are still stuck at the very first step of the journey. You're just staring at a hallucination of your own nafs, your own ego.
True knowledge, at least in this tradition, isn't an accumulation of facts that makes your intellect heavy. It is a shedding of the ego that makes your soul light.
Wow. We spend our whole lives trying to accumulate more knowledge. We read books, we study, we listen to deep dives like this one, all trying to make our minds bigger, to add more data points to our mental hard drives.
Constantly downloading.
Right. But based on this spiritual framework, it really makes you wonder about the trajectory of our modern world. We are moving so fast into this era of artificial intelligence and infinite data, where ilmi zahir, that apparent knowledge is growing exponentially by the second. We are literally drowning in information.
It's over.
So, if true hidden knowledge, ilmi batin, requires total internal silence, the complete shedding of the ego, and an unshakable patience, are we structurally engineering a society where achieving this kind of spiritual reality is becoming biologically and psychologically impossible?
That is a terrifying thought.
What if the ultimate secret to understanding the universe isn't about learning something new at all, but about unlearning your own ego, just so you can finally see the reality that was standing in front of you the whole time?
Yeah.
Something to mull over.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
So now you know there is a world we cannot see, but we can feel it if our heart is awake. Real knowledge is not just in books, it is inside you. If you search with a true heart, you will find something beautiful. Thank you for listening. Stay calm, stay curious, and keep searching.